Hello all my subscribers. So as promised, I'm gonna be doing a review or discussion on all three members of the MCU Trinity, that being Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Didn't have a Black Widow figure, so I couldn't have done it with Black Widow, but I will eventually now. And I have seen some pretty cool ones, so hopefully soon, when I get the money and the space, I'll definitely add those to my collection. But yeah, also I'm going to be trying my best not to look down too much, but I scripted what I'm going to say so I don't elongate the videos. So it's going to be a three-part video. Part 1 will be Iron Man, Part 2 will be Captain America, and Part 3 will be Thor. And I'm going to try to keep them in a good, consistent chronological formula, so I'll be reviewing their arcs chronologically to the best I can with this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the one who started it all for the MCU, Iron Man, my hero. My nickname too. So yeah, starting it off, the whole MCU did start off with Iron Man, and it was all his story from the start, that being his solo film, and Marvel basically put everything they had into this film, whether it was basically the whole studio pretty much. They had a massive loan, and at the time Iron Man, believe it or not, was considered a B-tier character, so everything was going against it, and they knew they had to get the right man for the job. And Tom Cruise almost was Iron Man. Yeah, don't see it. As much as I like Tom Cruise, I just don't see that working. And I looked at the list of other potential candidates. Thank God Jon Favreau convinced Marvel to cast him, because I can't see anybody else. And as we'll discuss, it's quite obvious that Tony Stark was just an absolute legend, and definitely is irreplaceable. And even though there's going to be characters that are going to have the part of the mantle, they're not his true replacement. They're just honoring his legacy, but also their own hero at the same time. But that's not where we're at here. So yeah, the whole success of the MCU was riding on this, and RDJ was seen as a risk. And obviously what this did for RDJ, along with Tropic Thunder, helped revive his career and gave him a career-defining role that he just fits so seamlessly into. And now it's kind of hard to be able to tell the difference. Shoot, is it RDJ or is it Tony Stark / Iron Man? Their personalities are, it's just so blurred. But yeah, let's go ahead and discuss just a bit of the story, along with my favorite moments in the film, and the state of the character at the end of this movie. So yeah, this one introduces Tony Stark, a weapons manufacturer who is making weapons that are being used in the current conflict in Afghanistan, which at this point now isn't a current conflict, as we just got out of the war, but it was relevant at the time back in 2008. And yeah, as we can see, he is definitely a playboy and lives up to that in his very opening scene with the frickin' him talking to the soldiers, and the Maxim models that he was in a relationship with, and also his interaction with Kristen Everhart, the reporter, who I find funny, took the drive from Las Vegas up to Malibu, California. Wow, that was just really interesting. But yeah, overall, I guess all I got left to say on here is definitely introduced his company, Stark Industries, that we would see throughout the MCU in a real nice way. And the supporting cast, whether it was Happy Hogan or Pepper, And their relationship definitely got off to a solid start with Pepper, along with Happy, even though he wasn't in the movie much, but that's also because Jon Favreau was the director of this film and he played him. Same thing went for Iron Man 2, but yeah. Anyway, here they are. But, yeah, guess after that, the only things of note is obviously it's nice seeing the evolution of the Iron Man armors, whether it's the initial big, bulky armor that the villain of this movie, played by Jeff Bridges, Obadiah Stane, would rework into his own armor. And then there's the Mark II, which is like this one, but it's all gray, and it's what would become the basis for War Machine, but we'll discuss that when we get to Iron Man 2. And, yeah, then after that, it's the traditional gold and hot rod red colored armor that he wore throughout the bulk of the film. But yeah, definitely introduced the character real greatly, and has a solid story, and can't believe the script wasn't even finished. It was mostly improvised on the dialogue part, and I guess RDJ and the whole cast excelled greatly, because the movie probably would have flopped if not. But yeah, the visual effects were amazing. I was amazed at how many practical effects were used, and even some scenes where RDJ was in like a modified suit that would happen in post-production, along with the point of view shots from inside his helmet. But yeah, I know that kind of changed throughout later MCU films, but I am glad that for certain scenes, though, they kind of gave him a bit of an armor to wear, or it was like the visual effects where they'd be finished in post. But, yeah, definitely had some solid moments, too, especially when he goes to fight all the terrorists, and he's all mowing them down, and they're all trying to threaten him one-on-one. He just uses his rockets. And, yeah, gosh, frickin', also when he fights Obadiah and begins to beat him with the freezing, because his initial armor couldn't go into outer space. And, also the most iconic moment at the end when he's reading the little title card that's trying to have S.H.I.E.L.D. that is introduced in this movie in Agent Coulson. And he's all like, frickin', you know what? Screw it. And then he's all like, I am Iron Man. So yeah, that's where he's at the end of this film. The whole world knows his identity, and that's going to play a big part in Iron Man 2. But, yeah, guess that's all I got to say on this one. But, yeah, it was a real solid introduction, and definitely a great start to this trilogy. I don't get it when people say, Iron Man had the best start for his trilogy, Captain America had the best middle part, and Thor had the best ending. Because the way I look at it, Iron Man had a great start, a good middle part, not great, but good, and the third was good, just a little bit of a mixed bag. And Captain America was just great all the way around. Thor had a decent start, a middle part that could have been better, and an ending that was pretty solid, but he's going to have at least one more film, so yeah. But anyway, that aside, I guess here are some shots from the movie, from what I was talking about. And now I'll briefly touch on his cameo in The Incredible Hulk. So yeah, I could also highlight some of his cameos and other appearances. I think I'm going to try to do them in a speed round, just so I don't elongate the length of this video. And same thing for the Avengers appearances once I get there. I think I might just do that. But I will save Endgame for the end, since that is the end of his arc. So, yeah. Anyway, now on to The Incredible Hulk. This one, I just realized, establishes a key relationship with General Ross, who, yeah, at the end of the film, Emil Blonsky is being held prisoner, and Stark is going there to tell him what's going on with S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's also kind of telling him, hey, you quit fucking with Bruce Banner, because if you do, S.H.I.E.L.D's coming after you. So I think that explains how the Hulk barely saw any interference from the military from that point on in the MCU, because I think Stark just went in and was like, you fuck with us, we fuck with you. I guess it's like NATO, how with NATO it's you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, and I guess it's you mess with Banner, we're sending everything we got at you. But yeah, it is real nice when how the general's all like, Stark, how do you always wear such nice suits? And he's like, you should talk. And he's all like, you should listen. We're forming a team together. And then he's all like, who's we? And then, oh gosh, I remember being super giddy watching that in the theater, because I was like, initially I thought it was just going to be Iron Man and the Hulk teaming up. But then after the Avengers teaser trailer was released, I was like, oh shit, that was an Avengers, like, name drop right there. I was like, oh shit, and it just, wow, really elevated the film and just the ramifications of the crossovers that the MCU would go to. Because I forgot to mention, there's a post-credit scene in Iron Man where Nick Fury shows up and he's all like, I am Iron Man. You really think you're the only superhero in the world? Well, I'm here to tell you you're not the only one. I'm Nick Fury, head of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this is the Avengers Initiative. But yeah, gosh, that was just also badass. And yeah, really loved that appearance and got the ground rolling on that. And then his next appearance after this would be Iron Man 2. So I think I'll go ahead and do my best to discuss Iron Man 2. And then I'll go into his Avengers appearances in a speed round and Iron Man 3 and his other appearances and go from there. So yeah, after this, his next appearance was in Iron Man 2. And I gotta say, definitely picked up where the previous movie left off real well. And Whiplash, I feel, is a better villain than he gets credit for. But yeah, definitely a nice development, especially with the palladium poisoning in his arc reactor that was killing him, but also granting him the ability to power the Iron Man armor and live. That was a nice development, along with the scene with Howard Stark, where he gives him approval from beyond the grave. Probably one of my favorite MCU scenes that doesn't get discussed a lot is when he's all like, my greatest creation is you. And Stark tears up, and I tear up, yeah. Most true MCU fans tear up during that scene because it is a very emotional scene, and it's only become more relevant post-Endgame. But, yeah, I guess after this, I don't get why people say Stark was too annoying or unlikable in this film. I feel like he was dying and whatnot, so what do you expect? And he still was the same lovable character and had great interactions with everyone. From Pepper, the furthering of that relationship was real nice and sweet, to Happy. He had a deeper connection with Happy. And Rhodey got a beefed up appearance because he actually donned the War Machine armor and took it and remodeled it and made it his own armor. So that was real nice. And seeing them team up and take down Whiplash's drones was just freaking amazing. And yeah, just overall, real solid film. And yeah, he had plenty of great moments. And I thought this left him in a real nice spot right here. So I guess here's a few shots from the movie. All right, now on to his next chronological appearance, that being the Avengers. And I think I'm just going to review Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War and some of those other movies kind of simultaneously because timeline-wise, they're kind of real close to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But yeah, this was definitely a real solid introduction to him to the Avengers. And he definitely had a great dynamic with all the Avengers, whether it was Captain America and their relationship as it would develop throughout the MCU, along with the furthering of Black Widow, as she previously appeared in Iron Man 2, which was real nice. And they definitely had a nice solid connection along with him and Banner. They just became instant friends because they were both scientists and shared a real solid connection of science and whatnot. And even though he didn't talk to Hawkeye a whole lot in this film, when he did, there were some pretty awesome interactions, especially with how Tony Stark would always use pop culture references to heroes or villains, and he called him Legolas, and he called Thor Point Break, and yeah, just about always had a name for that for just about every character, and I'll say more as they come along. But yeah, and also Stark Tower was introduced in this film, which was real nice and definitely a key set piece throughout the film. But yeah, just real solid development right here, definitely, and still picks up for where Iron Man 2 left off. And he still continued his pretty awesome interactions with Nick Fury from both Iron Man and Iron Man 2. And had some new ones with Maria Hill, and seeing his furthering of his relationship with Agent Coulson was nice, as they'd kind of become friends thanks to Pepper. And him and Pepper shared a real sweet moment in the beginning of the film, even though that was their only scene interacting together. She appeared in other scenes, but they weren't together. Though he did try to call her before his heroic sacrifice, which was a nice touch, even though she didn't pick up. But, yeah, guess I'll go ahead and highlight some of my favorite moments of his. So here's a few of those moments I was just discussing. But yeah, definitely some real solid moments, and him in the Battle of New York, and when the helicarrier was being attacked was real nice, and also led to a real awesome debate that all the Avengers had. And one of my favorite moments was him and Cap. They aren't initially getting along because Howard Stark, his dad, always hyped him up, and he kind of grew to resent him, and led to a real great moment where he's like, "Yeah, you know, I don't really trust you. I think you would just cut the wire. You're not the one to go out on a wire." And he's like, "Make the sacrifice play." And also real nice when Cap's all like, "Take off the suit and what are you? Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist." And I forgot to highlight it in my Black Widow video, but I kind of like the look on Black Widow's face where she's all like, he has a point. I forgot to highlight that, but I'll highlight that now. But yeah, just thought that was a real nice touch. But yeah, it's also funny too when he's all like, "Put on the suit, let's go a few rounds." And then the helicarrier gets attacked, and he's all like, "Put on the suit." And seeing them team up to repower the helicarrier was also real nice, and how Stark was getting all technical and all the jargon and whatnot on what made the propeller move around. And Cap's all like, "Speak English." And he's all like, "You see that lever right there? You pull it, it'll stop, and I can exit safely." But yeah, definitely a classic Stark moment right here is when he goes to confront Loki when his armor is damaged. And it's real nice when he's all confronting him and all like, when he's all saying, "Are you here to threaten me?" And he's all like, "You should put on your armor. You should have done that." And then he's all saying, "Yeah, we're the Avengers. We're Earth's mightiest heroes," sort of thing. It's what we call ourselves. And it's so funny when he jots off everyone's name and is all like, "And you managed to piss all them off." And then also when Loki tries to mind control him and he touches him on his arc reactor, he's all like, "How are they going to be able to fight when they're so busy fighting you?" And then he touches him and he's all like, "What the fuck?" Loki's all surprised. And like, "Yeah, well, everything's relative." And then he just grabs him, throws him off Stark Tower. And a real badass scene where he has these two bracelets, puts on the Iron Man armor, and probably one of my favorite lines is when he's all like, "We have an army," and he's all like, "We have a Hulk." And yeah, just really love that moment. And also after he gets that armor on, he's all like, "And you also managed to piss off one more person, and his name is Phil." And then he blasts him and frickin' yeah, because Phil Coulson died. Initially you think he's gonna say, "And you pissed me off," but nope, he's like, "You pissed off Phil." And yeah, and also a nice moment too when he's all like, "Oh yeah, army." And then he begins fighting everyone at the Battle of New York, and definitely leads to many badass moments when he destroys the Leviathan that's about to take down the Avengers. And I also love it too when he's all like, "Yeah, guys, I'm bringing the party to you." And also a nice moment too when he's trying to take down the big Leviathan, and he's all like, "Hey Jarvis, you ever heard the story of Jonah and the whale?" Crap, I forgot to highlight Jarvis. That's his AI interface who talks to him, voiced by Paul Bettany, so got that covered. But yeah, it's just so funny. He's all like, "Sir, I would not choose him as an idol." And then he just flies right through it. But then leads to a real nice moment too, where I guess he's having low power, and he's just fighting off as many of the Chitauri as he can. I guess he's getting overwhelmed. He's all like, "Jarvis, put everything we got into the thrusters now," and frickin' barely manages to escape. And decides to make the sacrificial play because his frickin' shield out of his control from the World Security Council launched a nuke at New York City. And Stark's all like, "I know exactly where to put it." And he goes into the portal that Loki used to send the Chitauri army, which leads to a near-death experience of him. And the previous moment I highlighted with Pepper, and a real nice moment too where he falls down and is laying down, and the Hulk roars him alive after he catches him from his fall. And he's all like, "Wait, what? Please tell me nobody kissed me." So yeah, that's where he's at with the Avengers. So really like the dynamic he had with all the characters. Had many great scenes and moments and interactions. Definitely set this up, and this would only get built upon further in all the other films. So I guess I'll go ahead and discuss the follow-up film chronologically for him after this, Iron Man 3, then his Avengers appearances, and then do a quick speed round for his other cameos and other appearances in other films. So yeah. So here's some images from the movie that I mentioned, and now on to Iron Man 3. So yeah, Iron Man 3 is his solo film right after the Avengers, and it deals with Stark dealing with his near-death experience from the Avengers, while also facing the new threat of the Mandarin. And this movie has definitely had a teeter-totter-like relationship with me. I've grown to really love it, then be mixed, then love it. But after seeing everything and the future ramifications of it, I'm more on the love side. I just don't agree with what they did with the Mandarin, because the Mandarin is Iron Man's Joker, pretty much, like his big arch enemy. So I was just real disappointed with that, because they just have such a great rivalry, with one being on the side of science and the other being magic and more mystical sides to his battle. It's just a real great, well-developed rivalry. But yeah, overall, him and Pepper's relationship continued in a real nice way in this movie, and had some great action in it. And also with Happy, him and Happy had a nice solidifying of their relationship, along with him and Rhodey, who became a war machine in this film. But yeah, so many, there were many great fight scenes and scenes where he was just Tony Stark, like he didn't have the armor, because the armor throughout this movie is constantly malfunctioning, which was a nice touch. But yeah, it was a pretty solid film, and really liked the airport battle scene too, where he goes to rescue those on Air Force One. And the final scene with the oil rig, that was pretty dang amazing, and I can kind of see why we never got an Iron Man 4, because how can you really top that? That was just so great, using all the armors, just everything really did come together. And the clean slate protocol, even though I initially was disappointed by it, by how it got handled, because it initially made it seem like he was retiring. I guess it was just the way of closing his individual story arc, but not his story arc altogether, which is why it wasn't odd that he came back as Iron Man in Avengers Age of Ultron. And it was explained in both Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War, so it's not like it wasn't addressed. But yeah, definitely a real solid film, and definitely great for the end for the Iron Man solo films, so he got his trilogy. So I guess now on to Avengers Age of Ultron, and then some of his other cameos and supporting appearances. So yeah, now on to his next appearance after Iron Man 3, that being Avengers Age of Ultron, the movie that I feel like I'm in the minority, but I loved it when it came out, still did, and RDJ as always was great as Stark, and it kind of had a nice little development for him, because the whole plot is kicked off by him wanting to put a suit of armor around the world so the Avengers could retire and not have to fight, and basically that's what would take care of it, that being the Ultron program. And nice development too with Jarvis and how he tries to teach Ultron and get Ultron to be on their side, but Ultron is just not having it, and even has elements of Stark's personality. But yeah, this was definitely a nice continuation from his appearance from Iron Man 3, and many great scenes, like in the beginning when Cap says language, and he's all like, wait, is no one gonna address that Captain America just said language? And also, he sees a vision at the beginning when Wanda Maximoff, who would become Scarlet Witch, messes with his mind, and he sees a future where he failed, all the Avengers died. And let's just say that is going to come into play later, but also is a very defining moment for him, because this is where he begins to become familiar with the rising threat, that being Thanos. So definitely a real solid solid moment right there, and nice development. So yeah, I guess here's just a few images from that. But yeah, some of my favorite scenes. Yeah, he definitely had a lot from action to his banter, and definitely liked it when there's the party scene. That was real nice, especially when he's trying to lift Mjolnir, and he's all like, "I'm gonna bring back Prima Noctra on Asgard," and gosh, that was just a real nice moment. And also too when he's all trying to tell Cap, or no, wait, it's when he basically foreshadows the title of Endgame. He's like, "You see that up there? That's the Endgame. Are you sure we're ready for that?" Nice little name drop to that right there. Nice little detail that Doctor Strange would further in Infinity War when he says, "We're in the end game now." But yeah, gosh, freaking what was I gonna say? But yeah, gosh, so many great moments too, especially when he has his initial fight with Ultron in Africa, and he's all like, "Clearly, you've never made an omelet." And he's like, "You beat me by 1 second." And him and Ultron have a real pretty awesome badass battle, which then leads to the Hulk, when the Hulk is going on a rampage, and he calls in the Iron Man armor, and a nice Archie Comics reference, because he names the satellite that brings him the armor Veronica, because Betty is Bruce Banner's girlfriend, so Betty for Betty Cooper, and then Veronica for Veronica Lodge. Like that little name drop, and it was confirmed by, I believe, at least Joss Whedon, maybe not, and probably by Kevin Feige also. But yeah, overall, definitely real nice. And him in the Battle of Sokovia was nice, and also some moments that developed his tension with Captain America over the events of the film. And yeah, overall, real solid. But yeah, as I was saying, Stark did definitely have some nice one-liners, besides the one I just previously mentioned about the omelet. Another one I really liked was, when Banner and Black Widow were left alone together, and he was all like, "You and Banner better not be playing hide the zucchini." And I just love Natasha's response, calling him Shellhead, his nickname from the comics. But, also I liked it too when Ultron was saying, "This is exactly what I wanted. All of you against all of me. How do you hope you can beat me?" And then he's like, "Well, as the old man said, together." And had that badass circle shot that looked like it came straight from a comic book. And also nice when Stark almost sacrificed himself again. Another little detail I like, or the many times he proved Captain America wrong, and basically stands on the little reactor on Ultron's crater, or not crater, meteor he made, his makeshift meteor, and blasts it, and almost could have died in the wreckage from it, but didn't. But yeah, the last of note scene after this is when he goes to talk to Captain America, and I guess he decides to bow out and just do his own thing and leave Captain America and Natasha to lead the Avengers from that point on. So yeah, here's just a few more images from that movie, and then gonna move on to Civil War and then his next few movies. So I think I'm gonna try to speed round through these. So yeah, up next, his next appearance was in Captain America Civil War. So guess I'll be holding these two together since they did have their clash while during the movie. But yeah, anyway, this movie picks up right where Avengers Age of Ultron left off, and dealt with an international incident that tainted the image of the Avengers. And Stark, after a presentation, which when I get to my Spider-Man review, I'll elaborate more on the significance of it. It was a way of him dealing with the trauma of him not saying anything more to his dad, and a real nice moment. And he's talking to one of the survivors of the Battle of Sokovia, and now Stark wants to sign this legislation that allows all these elected officials, and making the Avengers no longer a private organization, and that they're now with the UN. And Cap is against it. He thinks the Avengers still their safest hands of their own, but Iron Man thinks that if they don't do this now, it's going to happen to them later, and also that they need to be put in check, and that if they're not, they're no better than the bad guys. And it's just real nice how both sides are established well. You see why Stark feels the way he feels. And I don't feel like he overshadows Cap in this movie. It's still Cap that drives the story, and this isn't Avengers 2.5. That's besides the point. Guess just here's a few images for that. Then I'll discuss my favorite scenes of his and fight scenes and a key scene later on in the film. So yeah, it was real nice seeing him frickin' meet up with Spider-Man when he goes to see him, and he just figures out Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And I like this joke about Aunt May when he's all like, "You're a surprisingly attractive aunt." And it was also funny too how she responded to him when he said, "I still can't believe you're someone's aunt." She's like, "You know, we come in all shapes and sizes, you know." But yeah, gosh, it was just so awesome. Oh, and funny when Black Widow asked him, "Please tell me you got a suit," and he's like, "Yeah, it's a lovely Tom Ford." And just his chemistry with Spider-Man and everyone was just great, and he had some nice interactions with Black Widow also, and the airport scene was great too. All the many different times he was fighting everyone from Wanda, and how she just launched a bunch of cars at him. Oh gosh, that was just a real great scene. And also when Ant-Man got into his armor and he's like, "I'm your conscience. We don't talk a lot these days." Oh gosh, I friggin' loved it. But yeah, it was nice how he definitely set up Spider-Man greatly in this movie. And after that, him and Iron Man and Bucky have a final fight in a Russian bunker, where it's revealed Cap was keeping the secret that he knew Bucky killed his parents. And let's just say he freaking rages out on him and he bitch slaps him, and it was just a real intense and rough fight, and just about everyone is just battered and bruised, and the Avengers are just split after this, and nobody really won. It was just, and the Avengers never really fully reunited up until a few movies later, which when we get to that film we'll discuss how long that lasted. But yeah, I really liked this. I liked what it did and its connection to future MCU films, and how we're still feeling the Sokovia Accords in many ways. And definitely a nice progression of Iron Man and him becoming way more responsible and whatnot, because his breakup with Pepper that happened was carrying plot thread, which is where that got addressed. So here's a few key scenes from this movie. Guess that's all I gotta say about him in Civil War, so let's go to his supporting appearance in Spider-Man Homecoming. Then it'll be the final two Avengers movies, and that'll be it. So he basically had an extended cameo in this movie, and frickin' what was I gonna say? It was an extended cameo, and it furthers the relationship between him and Spider-Man. Almost forgot I had this one here. And him just trying to keep him safe with his tech, and real funny scene where he shows up and he's in India and he has to rescue him with his armor, and he's all like, frickin', here's an armor that looks more like that one from the movie. This action figure has the color scheme and whatnot and is a lot closer to it. But yeah, it's so funny. He was like, "You are so lucky I got Wi-Fi." And other great scenes too where they're FaceTiming, and he's all like, "Yeah, I'm trying to break the cycle, check in on you, not be like my dad." It's so funny. He's like, "What's that sound?" He's like, "I'm at band practice." He's like, "Wait, Happy told me you're no longer in band." And it leads to a real great scene where Spider-Man's all, after failing to save some New York citizens on a ferry, he's all like, what if someone died? Because if you die, that's on my conscience, and that's on me, and I don't want it on my conscience. And just a real great scene, and something that'll be paid off in the next movie, where he's all like, "Something happened to you, I don't know what I would do." And also a real great scene too in the movie where he's all like, "If you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it." and then he takes it back. And the last major scene that he's in is the end, when he wants Spider-Man to reveal himself to the world, but he decides not to, as he figures it's better to just stay a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like he told him, because he wanted him to be like an actual Avenger and wear this armor, the Iron Spider. And I'm gonna throw in some images so you can see that better. But yeah, a real nice scene where he's all like, well, we need new news, and Happy gives him a ring. He's like, been holding on to that since 2008. And yeah, just a real nice sweet moment where he proposes to Pepper. And guess that's all there is for this appearance. So on to his second to last appearance in Avengers Infinity War. So Avengers Infinity War takes place pretty much right after Homecoming, and this one starts off with him getting ready to marry Pepper Potts, putting their wedding together, and Doctor Strange ends up summoning him, and the threat of Thanos comes in, and he goes after him on this little ship in New York. A real great scene where we see him wear a nanotech armor, and yeah, overall just real badass armor. I love the Mark 50, it is so badass. But yeah, furthering of his development, and definitely like the continued building of his relationship with Spider-Man. And Spider-Man also now wears this Iron Spider costume. So yeah, guess that's all I gotta say on where he's at with the story-wise, because the other developments will come in my favorite moments in the film. So here's a few images. So yeah, frickin' yeah, so he teams up with Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and they're going after Cull Obsidian, and I just like what he calls him. He's like, "Get lost, Squidward." Frickin' love it with his pop culture references. But yeah, it leads to a real great scene also when the Guardians of the Galaxy show up, and frickin' Star-Lord's all like, "Where is Gamora?" And he's like, "No, I'll do you one better. Who is Gamora?" And then Drax is all like, "No, I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?" Just him and Star-Lord and all the Guardians had frickin' great interactions, especially with Spider-Man in the mix. But yeah, his interactions with Doctor Strange were real nice too, seeing them flaunt their intelligence and whatnot, and I'm kind of glad they didn't make a Sherlock Holmes joke, since they both played Sherlock Holmes. Probably going to be RDJ's next movie, because I've heard he's going to be working on it. He couldn't make the third Sherlock Holmes movie due to his commitment to the MCU. But yeah, also some real great scenes also where he fights Thanos, and he's like, "My only curse is you." And frickin' even when Star-Lord outplans them, he's all trying to put together a plan. He's all like, "You know, that plan is really good, but it sucks." And boy, just one real nice moment where he's fighting Thanos with every last breath, and he makes him bleed, and he's using all of his new modified weapons, and leads to, oh boy, the moment I thought where he would die, when Thanos grabs his knife and he stabs him, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, watching the movie in the theater, I honestly thought he could have died, but he didn't. But yeah, and then it leads to the snap. Basically, just about everyone except Nebula is dusted on Titan, where he's at, and we witness the scene where Spider-Man is fading away. His worst fear came true, and his death is on his conscience. And there's a nice detail where he's holding up his hand. He's hoping he's gonna die, but he didn't. And yeah, just a real great scene. And also where he's just mourning him and just accepting what happened, and that the Avengers failed, and definitely leaves him in a real interesting spot to finish off his character arc in the very next movie, Avengers Endgame. So here's some final Infinity War images. Now we're going to be on his final film, and then I'll briefly discuss his legacy, and that's the end of this video. Then on to Captain America. So yeah, frickin' just a real nice scene of some time travel where Stark and Captain America go back to the Battle of New York in the Avengers. And he's in his Mark 85 armor that looks a lot like his comic book armor. And it's just overall a really great frickin' armor. I love the way it looks, and it's also funny his interactions with Ant-Man about how they couldn't spot Hydra, took the Tesseract. We also get to see some of the events that happened after the Avengers, which was real cool, especially the CGI that like made all the Avengers look like they did back in 2012. That was a nice touch. And also when Stark is about to take one of the Infinity Stones from the time heist, because that's the whole thing of the time heist. They're trying to get the stones from the past to undo the damage Thanos caused. Frickin' Stark and Captain America got to go back to 1970 to his initial military base, and he gets to interact with his dad. So through time travel, he gets to say goodbye to his father and relate to him, because he had a kid and even realized he did the best he could, and said a nice line where he's all like, no money, bought a second of time. And even realized that he may have been mean to him, but he always loved for him, and that there wasn't anything he wouldn't do for him. A nice little sweet moment, not gonna lie, between him and his dad. And guess here's a few images from that, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw some in from the final battle and just any other key Stark moments in this, because I'm just going to discuss them, and that'll be it on the video. Part of the journey is the end, as he says. So yeah, frickin' after that, after coming back to the present, gosh, frickin' Stark showed the acceptance stage of grief after finding out Natasha died, where he's accepted what happened, because he's all like, did she have a family? And then that's when Captain America said, yeah, us. And he also made the time travel gauntlet, or not time travel, the Infinity Gauntlet Stark Tech armor. And real nice scene where he's putting on his armor and has the little shield that kind of looks like his shield from frickin' from the Marvel vs. Capcom games. But yeah, once Thanos attacks after the Hulk snaps and brings back everyone with his gauntlet, him, Captain America, and Thor all walk up to Thanos, and just leads to a real badass fight where they're taunting him, and frickin' one real nice one was when Thor uses his frickin' lightning, and he's all like, Thor, hit me, and he just frickin' blasts him with all the power he's got. And just so many great moments. There's even a moment where Thanos knocks him down and he's unconscious, and his new AI that replaced Jarvis Friday, his Scottish AI, she's all like, boss, are you conscious? But yeah, he gets in some good hits on Thanos, but that battle was very evenly matched. Surprisingly, this variant of Thanos was pretty badass, even compared to his prime counterpart. But yeah, he also partook in the iconic Avengers Assemble scene, and frickin' Stark gets in some pretty awesome shots where he's just mowing down a bunch of goons, and that real badass scene where Pepper is wearing the rescue armor he made for her, and where her and him are just blasting everybody, which was a real badass scene. And I also like the scene too where he interacts with Doctor Strange and says, hey, is this the future where we win? And Strange is all like, if I tell you what happens, it won't happen. He's like, you better be right. And oh gosh, just leads to the real nice moment where he hugs Spider-Man, because he didn't hug him in Homecoming, and after having him back, he hugged him, and that was his last interaction with him. Yeah. Rough. But yeah, after many back and forth ebb and flows of Thanos getting the advantage in the battle, then the Avengers, then Thanos, it leads to a final fight where he's trying to get the gauntlet off Thanos because Captain Marvel tried to bring him down, but Thanos used the Power Stone to knock her away, and frickin' leads to him using the nanotech that his suit was made out of to make a makeshift gauntlet. and references the ending line to Iron Man when he says in his final line in the MCU, "And I am Iron Man." And then all Thanos' army is dusted, and that's it for Thanos, and Stark dies. Yeah. I guess I'm not tearing up because the Black Widow one took up all my tears. Not just for Black Widow, but for Iron Man and Captain America, rewatching those movies. But, yeah, it was rough. And he got a hero's death and a nice funeral, and all the MCU that he touched, I like the way it was arranged, from the most important of his immediate family of Pepper and Morgan, and then Happy and Rhodey, War Machine, and then Captain America and all the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, those who hadn't perished, like Black Widow. And even Harley from Iron Man 3, the kid from the movie who I forgot to mention, he appears at the end also. And General Ross, surprisingly, I noticed that too. And oh, Hank Pym also. Kind of surprised because he didn't like his dad, Howard, but I guess he had no beef with Tony, so yeah, and considering what he did. And yeah, it was a real nice send-off. The music was great, and his final message too was great to Morgan when he's all like saying, "Yeah, I'm really questioning this time travel mission we got. I'm wondering if it will succeed." And he's like, "Who am I kidding? Everything will work out fine." And also says part of the journey is the end, when he has this little holographic message to everyone, from Happy to Pepper and Morgan and Rhodey. And then his last words to Morgan are, "I love you 3000. What Morgan said to him earlier in the film, just, oh gosh, just real sweet moment. Oh boy. But yeah, I love you 3000, RDJ, Iron Man, Tony Stark, and definitely a way to end this character arc. And yeah, I definitely really love Iron Man's time. I'm gonna miss him. He's very irreplaceable, and just so many great things, from the dramatic moments, the comedic moments, the one-liners. Just it was just simply wonderful. That's all I can say. Why Iron Man is now my favorite superhero instead of Batman. Batman's number 2, but he's 1. But yeah, definitely a real solid run, and he'll be missed. So I guess I'll say this to all my subscribers who've watched all these videos: if you stuck around for this and are going to stick around for the other 2 videos, I love all of you 3000. And I guess to paraphrase Freddie Mercury, thank you, all you beautiful people. So be ready for the Captain America and Thor videos. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace. So yeah, frickin' after that, after coming back to the present, gosh, frickin' Stark showed the acceptance stage of grief after finding out Natasha died, where he's accepted what happened, because he's all like, "Did she have a family?" And that's when Captain America said, "Yeah, us." And he also made the time travel gauntlet, or not time travel, the Infinity Gauntlet Stark Tech armor. And real nice scene where he's putting on his armor and has the little shield that kind of looks like his shield from frickin' from the Marvel vs. Capcom games. But yeah, once Thanos attacks after the Hulk snaps and brings back everyone with his gauntlet, him, Captain America, and Thor all walk up to Thanos, and just leads to a real badass fight where they're taunting him, and frickin' one real nice moment is when Thor uses his frickin' lightning, and he's all like, "Thor, hit me!" and he just frickin' blasts him with all the power he's got, and just so many great moments. There's even a moment where Thanos knocks him down, and he's unconscious, and his new AI that replaced Jarvis Friday, his Scottish AI, she's all like, boss, are you conscious?" But yeah, he gets in some good hits on Thanos, but that battle was very evenly matched. Surprisingly, this variant of Thanos was pretty badass, even compared to his prime counterpart. But yeah, he also partook in the iconic Avengers Assemble scene, and frickin' Stark gets in some pretty awesome shots where he's just mowing down a bunch of goons, and that real badass scene where Pepper is wearing the rescue armor he made for her, and where her and him are just blasting everybody, which was a real badass scene. And I also like the scene too where he interacts with Doctor Strange, says, "Hey, is this the future where we win?" And Strange is all like, "If I tell you what happens, it won't happen." He's like, "Very right." And oh gosh, just leads to the real nice moment where he hugs Spider-Man, because he didn't hug him in Homecoming, and after having him back, he hugged him, and that was his last interaction with him. Yeah, rough. But yeah, after many back and forth ebb and flows of Thanos getting the advantage in the battle, then the Avengers, then Thanos, it leads to a final fight where he's trying to get the gauntlet off Thanos because Captain Marvel tried to bring him down, but Thanos used the Power Stone to knock her away, and frickin' leads to him using the nanotech that his suit was made out of to make a makeshift gauntlet, and references the ending line to Iron Man when he says in his final line in the MCU, "And I am Iron Man." And then all Thanos' army is dusted, and that's it for Thanos, and Stark dies. Yeah. I guess I'm not tearing up because the Black Widow one took up all my tears. Not just for Black Widow, but for Iron Man and Captain America, rewatching those movies. But yeah, it was rough, and he got a hero's death and a nice funeral, and all the MCU that he touched, I like the way it was arranged, from the most important of his immediate family of Pepper and Morgan, and then Happy and Rhodey, War Machine, and then Captain America and all the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, those who hadn't perished, like Black Widow. And even Harley from Iron Man 3, the kid from the movie who I forgot to mention, he appears at the end also. And General Ross, surprisingly, I noticed that too. And oh, Hank Pym also. Kind of surprised because he didn't like his dad, Howard, but I guess he had no beef with Tony, so yeah, and considering what he did. And yeah, it was a real nice send-off. The music was great, and his final message too was great to Morgan when he's all like saying, "Yeah, I'm really questioning this time travel mission we got. I'm wondering if it will succeed." And he's like, "Who am I kidding? Everything will work out fine." And also says part of the journey is the end, when he has this little holographic message to everyone, from Happy to Pepper and Morgan and Rhodey. And then his last words to Morgan are, "I love you 3000. What Morgan said to him earlier in the film, just, oh gosh, just real sweet moment. Oh boy. But yeah, I love you 3000, RDJ, Iron Man, Tony Stark, and definitely a way to end this character arc. And yeah, I definitely really love Iron Man's time. I'm gonna miss him. He's very irreplaceable, and just so many great things, from the dramatic moments, the comedic moments, the one-liners. Just it was just simply wonderful. That's all I can say. Why Iron Man is now my favorite superhero instead of Batman. Batman's number 2, but he's 1. But yeah, definitely a real solid run, and he'll be missed. So I guess I'll say this to all my subscribers who've watched all these videos: if you stuck around for this and are going to stick around for the other 2 videos, I love all of you, 3,000. And I guess to paraphrase Freddie Mercury, thank you, all you beautiful people. So be ready for the Captain America and Thor videos. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.